This is the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA, a weekly recap of your Eagles and news around the NFL. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rob's Automotive and Collision, BCWSA, Chickies and Pete's, Allstate Fairless Hills Tom LaCroix, and Penworth Financial Services, Penn Community Bank, Capital Grill, Ventresca's LTD, Independence Blue Cross, and SEPTA. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report, presented by BCWSA. Now, here are your hosts, Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, Merrill Reese.
Thank you very much, and here we are, Chickies and Pete's in Warrington on this bitter cold Monday night. Mr. Insider, Dave Spadaro, Mr. Outsider, it's me, and Mr. All-Around Expert, Ray Didinger is our guest tonight. How about a nice welcome for Ray Didinger? Well, gentlemen, the sky has finally fallen. After 10 glorious weeks, we thought the Eagles would never lose again, but it finally happened yesterday.
And the sun came up today, Merrill. That's the beautiful thing about the NFL. There's always going to be another week. The Eagles certainly played, as Nick Sirianni said, a sloppy game, undisciplined game in Washington. It went down to the wire, an uncharacteristic drop from Devontae Smith, a drive that took the Washington Commanders into the end zone for a final time, and Jaden Daniels delivers for the Commanders, who clinch a playoff berth. And the Eagles still one win away from clinching the NFC East.
Well, they are. And Ray Didinger, your thoughts about the game yesterday? It seemed to me like there used to be an old comic book character 100 years ago by the name of Pogo, and he used to have this line, "We have met the enemy, and they are us."
I'm old enough to remember Pogo. And that's really not a bad description. That is kind of how it felt. I mean, the Eagles, you thought, the way the game started, that it was going to be pretty easy. I actually didn't think so going into it, because I think Washington is better than people think.
But they're good.
They people should be taking them seriously now. I think early in the year people thought, it's kind of a fluke. No, it's not. Their young quarterback is absolutely not a fluke. And that's one of the things that I kind of take away from it is Jaden Daniels changes the face of the NFC East. I mean, you're going to have to deal with him now for a long time, and Washington is not going to be the Washington of old. And the performance he had yesterday was tremendous. The Eagles saw him in November, but he was playing with a bad rib, and they had him in the pocket, and he wasn't running around. He wasn't doing the things he did yesterday. Yesterday, you kind of saw the full dimension of his ability, and he is really, really good. And listen, a great win for Washington. And, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I thought that the number one seed was a long shot anyway.
I did.
I mean, a lot of things had to happen, and I kind of so a lot of people were really dismayed that, there goes the number one seed. I really didn't know how realistic that was anyway. If the Eagles go out and take care of business against the Dallas Cowboys this week, then, I think everything kind of stabilizes itself and we move forward. And they can learn some things. They can take away and learn some things from the performance yesterday. And I think David said that Nick Sirianni described it as a sloppy game. And usually when you play sloppy in the NFL, you wind up losing.
Dave, were they back today, or is they off on Mondays?
It was a scheduled team lift, and they canceled it, and the only players in were those taking treatment. So it was a day off after a very physical 2 weeks. The Steelers and the Commanders, emotional game, really intense loss yesterday in Washington and Landover, Maryland. So the players had a day off today. They will work on Tuesday. They'll have Christmas off and get back to it on Thursday.
I would not want to be an Eagles player when they come in tomorrow, because I think Nick is going to peel the paint off the wall. Because one thing they were yesterday was undisciplined, and I don't think there's anything that aggravates a coach more.
Yeah, I mean, there were certainly a couple of players, I would say, certainly Jalen Carter, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, undisciplined from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't think the rest of the team played that way. They missed tackles, certainly, and that's a lack of execution and a lack of, attending to the fundamentals. So I'm not sure he's a peel the paint off. This is a peel the paint off moment.
No.
This is a get back to where we were moment. I think this is a, guys, we had an opportunity there. We did not play our best game. We had our backup quarterback on the field for 3 quarters, yet we were a Devontae Smith catch away from winning the game. And we need you to refocus. We need you to play with passion and play with intensity and pay attention to the details, and also restrain yourselves and do not play after the whistle. And I think for the most part, the Eagles do that. On a couple of occasions yesterday, Carter and C.J. Gardner-Johnson specifically, the Eagles did not rein themselves in, and we saw how much it cost them.
Well, absolutely. You know, I've been through a lot of Eagles coaches, as have you, Ray, and Dave. Dave, you've been through quite a few, too. But I want to tell you something. Chip Kelly is one guy who I didn't take much away from. He was probably last on my list of favorite coaches. But Chip Kelly said one thing that today still resonates with me when he used to say to the team, play with emotion, don't let emotion play with you. Mm-hmm. And that was what happened yesterday. No matter what, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you can almost excuse him for the first personal foul, first unsportsmanlike. But after that, being warned that one more and he's out of the game, you shut up. You just play football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the Washington, they knew that, and they baited him, and they took the bait.
No question.
Jalen Carter took the bait, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson took the bait, and players who are that important, who understand what's at stake, do not take the bait. So hopefully they learn the lesson.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. And both of those guys, those 2 guys in particular, now have that reputation, and people around the league know it, and they will take advantage of it if they can. Furthermore, the officials know it, and they're looking for it. So you see this all the time, and the fact is they're both too good and too valuable to allow themselves to get caught up in that. And listen, the loss of Gardner-Johnson was a big loss yesterday.
It was.
I mean, you got a couple plays when you saw those drives in the fourth quarter and some of the big throws that they were hitting down the middle. Mm-hmm. Those are balls that C.J. Gardner-Johnson maybe he gets to.
You can make a case that him being out of the lineup was as big a reason for the loss as the drop pass.
I agree. I agree with Ray. The Eagles all season have been limiting big plays. All of a sudden, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's out of the game, and Washington's going vertical in the pass game, and that is no coincidence. His range, his coverage ability, his physical play, the way he sets up the defense, the defensive backfield, all very important, all missing, and no, criticism of McCollum, but he's just not the kind of player that C.J. Gardner-Johnson is. So it cost the Eagles in a very important game, and they cannot let that happen again. They will be targeted. I thought the referees. I thought there were many, many, many questionable calls. But at the end of the day, the Eagles are responsible for committing 10 penalties, and some of them big enough that you lost a really good football player for much of the second half.
Well, once you lost Jalen Hurts, that changed everything, too. Because, first of all, I want to say that I thought that Kenny Pickett did a very good job filling in. I mean, he was admirable. He came off the bench. He hadn't taken reps. He hasn't played in a long time. He did not look flustered. He didn't look shaky. He looked like he was under control, and he made some good throws. He did as well as could be expected under those circumstances. But what happened, Ray Didinger, is suddenly the Eagles were no longer +1 when they lined up, and then they were able to stack up and stop Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, it changed all of that, and it obviously changes your ultra short yardage package because you're not going to tush push it with Kenny Pickett.
No, you're not.
So now you are in the situation where you have third down and a yard to go, and instead of being right at the line of scrimmage, now you're working it out of a shotgun, which is a whole different dynamic. And yeah, I think for all the talk and the chatter about Jalen Hurts and how good is he and how important is he and all that stuff, I think you saw yesterday what a different team they are when he's not on the field, because it changes. And look, Dan Quinn is a really good defensive coach. And once it became obvious that Jalen was not coming back into the game and was going to be Pickett the rest of the game. And again, I'm with you. I don't think Pickett played poorly. I think he played pretty well under the circumstances. But Quinn was able to change his whole defensive approach, and now everything became locking down Saquon Barkley.
Can we talk specifically, because I've had so many conversations with fans today about that. Why didn't the Eagles do this? Why didn't the Eagles do that?
Why didn't they?
To me, it looked like this. It looked like they stacked the box and they blitzed against the run. They blitzed against the pass. I mean, the argument was, why didn't you let Kenny Pickett throw the football more? I got into a really long conversation with somebody at work. Why did we run the football on 1st and 10 so much? It didn't work. They were playing the run. They were keying on Saquon Barkley. Why don't you get the ball? Why don't we run a screen? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? My answer was, Kenny Pickett had no reps. He had no timing. Appreciate how difficult it is for a backup quarterback to come into a game and get out of the huddle, hand the ball off with timing, throw the football. I thought that Washington did a great job completely abandoning all of the things they did in the first couple of drives and just attacking the line of scrimmage. What specifically did you see from Dan Quinn's defense?
Well, I thought that they went with pretty much a straight they went almost exclusively to zone after it was over, after the change. And they played with one safety high, and they dropped everybody else down low, and they just jammed the line of scrimmage and run blitz like crazy. And the feeling that Quinn had was, look, if they want to throw it and Pickett can hit the plays, okay, but we'll live with that. But the one thing we can't live with is Saquon Barkley going off for another 100 yards on us. If we can limit him, then we'll be in control of the game. And then offensively, we have to stop turning the ball over. But that was really it. I mean, it became much more of a zone team. One safety, drop everybody else down, jam the line of scrimmage, take away all the running lanes. And listen, even though the Eagles have a really good offensive line and Saquon Barkley is an outstanding running back, he's having a great year, you're just outnumbered at the line of scrimmage. And Washington decided that's where we're going to try it. We're going to try to win the game that way, and they were able to do it.
Should the Eagles have thrown the ball more?
Well, I think they should have thrown the ball a little bit differently, and here's what I mean. They have the best pair of wide receivers in Eagles history as a pair. I mean, people say, well, Mike Quick and Harold Carmichael. Well, Mike was a rookie, and Harold was near the end.
At the end of his
days. And, of course,
right.
you had Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin. They were very, very good. I think the pair of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are the best pair of wide receivers in Eagles history. However, they throw almost every pass to them, or when Dallas Goedert is back, they go to Goddard a little bit. And they do have other receivers out there. They traded for Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson's a good football player, and he does get open. Why don't they target him 3 or 4 times a game?
I don't see him getting open, to be honest with you. So maybe we're seeing different things. I just don't see him getting open. I thought yesterday one of the challenges, what we really saw where you missed Goddard yesterday, was in the blocking game. I thought the Washington did a great job overwhelming Grant Calcaterra and forcing him to block, and they took advantage of him.
Yeah, that's not – I mean, Calcaterra has become a very useful player.
As a receiver.
As a receiver. But he does not give you the blocking that Goddard did. I give Goddard a lot of credit. When Goddard has really worked on his blocking game. I mean, when he came here, he was okay, but I wouldn't have said that he was that was his strength. But he's worked to the point. He's worked to the point now where he's a really good blocker. I mean, I think he's one of the better blocking tight ends in the league. And when you lose him, because everybody talks about the receiving part of it, which you certainly do, because he's good at that too. But the big difference is, when you take him out of there, you're not getting the same blocking from your tight end position.
But here's the problem: he's not only a great blocking tight end and receiving tight end. He is among the best tight ends in the National Football League. However, do you realize how many games he's missed?
A lot.
Each year.
Yeah.
Each year. I mean, he goes out and he comes back in for a game, and then he's gone again. And that's not his fault. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah, and he won't be eligible to return from the injured reserve list until after this game. So the Eagles will have to beat the Dallas Cowboys without Dallas Goedert. And with an offense that it has to expect, we don't know anything about Jalen Hurts. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the Dallas Cowboys bring pressure, and they did a great job last night beating Tampa Bay with a lot of pressure at the line of scrimmage, and I'm sure they'll test the Eagles again on Sunday.
This is not the Dallas team that the Eagles faced on November the 10th. This is a better team. At that point, I think, what was it? Was that the first game or the second game for Cooper Rush?
They're 4-2 since Cooper Rush took over. They lost to the Eagles, and then they lost they lost to the Eagles, and then they lost to Houston, and then they've won 4 of the last 5 games.
Because Cooper Rush is now comfortable.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush, to me, is Andy Dalton. He's that type of quarterback. You can win with Cooper Rush. He's not Dak Prescott. doesn't have the multi-dimensional talents, but he's not chopped liver.
No, he's not, and you're seeing that. I mean, before this year, he had a winning record when they had to play him, and now since he's come in, they're winning again. And as David said, it's funny because people have kind of stopped thinking about the Cowboys. They kind of are been off most people's radar. I don't know how many people are really aware of the fact they have won 4 of the last 5.
Yeah.
And are actually playing pretty good football right now. So this is not going to be an easy game with or without Jalen Hurts.
They're just good enough, right? They're just good enough to keep Mike McCarthy in jobs.
We hope so.
The Cowboy fans. The Cowboy fans are really upset because Mike McCarthy. They want him out like yesterday.
Keep Jerry. Keep run it back next year. Run it back next year. That's fine. No, I think the Cowboys are a much improved team, but to me, it's really not about any other team. It's about the Philadelphia Eagles. And yesterday, losing Jalen Hurts. Look, I think if Jalen had been healthy, guys, it would have been a totally different outcome. The way the Eagles came out with the energy on defense, the takeaways, the big 4th down stop, the second possession, the takeaway, Saquon busting the big run, Jalen running for 41 yards in the first quarter against the blitz. What an effective weapon. You lose all of that with Kenny Pickett on the field.
Okay, we just want to celebrate Charlotte's 6th birthday. Happy birthday, Charlotte. Celebrating her birthday
Charlotte,
with her
your
Eagles
birthday.
family at Chickies and Pete's here in Warrington. Back right after this.
Since 1991, the Great American Pub in Conshohocken has been offering an authentic and memorable experience for guests looking to dine in or enjoy the bar and nightlife. Located at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken, the Great American Pub has all your craft beer selections and some of the best food options anywhere. While you're there trying their buffalo chicken spring rolls or Maryland crab cakes, enjoy your favorite sporting events on their numerous televisions surrounding the bar. Visit them at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken or learn more online at thegreatamericanpub.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
This is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League champion Phillies. And here's the pitch. BCWSA water and sewer customers, you have a new and improved option to pay your bill that's convenient, reliable, and secure. Powered by Invoice Cloud, you can pay your bill 24/7 online, pay by text or phone, or sign up for AutoPay to avoid fees for late or missed payments. Visit bcwsa.net to sign up or for more info. That's bcwsa.net. BCWSA, proven.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA. Once again, here are your hosts, Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, Merrill Reese.
And back we are here at Chickies and Pete's in Malvern. Merrill Reese, Dave Spadaro, and Ray Didinger.
We're in Warminster tonight, Merrill.
Where did I say we are?
Malvern.
Malvern? Did I say Malvern? I thought we were. This isn't Malvern?
This is not.
We're in Warminster.
We took a left instead of a right, and
we're in Warrington.
We're
this is Chickies and Pete's in
Warrington.
Warrington.
We're not even in Warminster. I don't even know where we are.
We don't. None of us. Dave called me today, and he said, "I think I came to the wrong Chickies and Pete's." And 2 minutes later, I was right
out front.
He's outside the parking lot. But anyhow, we are at Chickies and Pete's in Warrington. We are forever moving around. Next week, we're at Chickies and Pete's in Bloomington, Indiana. But for now, we are at Chickies and Pete's in Warrington. Ray, what's keeping you busy these days? I know a couple of years ago you formally retired, and you've been doing nothing but working ever since.
It does seem that way. I'm reminded of that pretty much every day by my wife. But Yeah, I mean, I just finished writing another book, which will be out next fall.
Wait a minute. I thought the last one was like the last book. What was the name of that?
That was Finished Business.
Finished Business. I thought that meant finished business.
It should at the time it felt that
It
way.
was Finished Business Part 1.
Yes. So there's another book that I've now written that will be coming out next fall. I've written another play, which I think it appears will be produced in the fall, and I have Tommy and Me, which is now in year number 8, and is going to be. This is what may have made you think of Malvern. It's going to be Tommy and Me is going to be coming to the People's Light Theater in Malvern.
And you had just said that to me.
We were just talking about that.
Right when we were coming back, you put Malvern in my head.
We were just talking about that. But Tommy and Me is coming to People's Light Theater in Malvern. We open January 7th, and tickets are selling so well they actually have already extended it for 1 week. So we're going to run through February 1st.
The original Me and Tommy and Me is now 36 years old. Is that true?
No, we have changed the young Ray character 4 times, simply because each of those actors outgrew it. So we have a really fine young actor that's going to do it, and the rest of the cast is still the same.
Ray, what's the new book?
The new book it's called Look What the Kid Wrote Today, and it's really, when I went back and looked at Finished Business, there were a lot of things that I kind of wanted to include, but I didn't include, and the more I look back on them, the more I thought, I really do think there's another book here. So I thought about it some more, and I researched it a little bit more, and I talked to the people at Temple Press, and they said, why don't you try it? So I sat down and I wrote it, and they liked it, and it's going to come out next year.
Boy, that's great.
Congratulations.
Have you done a book?
I did. I wrote the picture book called Fly, Eagles, Fly after we won the Super Bowl.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, that's the joke. I wrote the picture book. I wrote the captions for the book.
All right.
Yeah, but I have a byline. I'm an author.
You probably have a really good book in you.
The problem, Merrill, is that I feel like it would be a kiss and tell book. That's what people would want, and I don't want to do that.
Well, you can't.
Yeah, I don't want to make any enemies when I'm finished with the Eagles.
Because you become the Eagles outsider.
I would be the Eagles outsider, and I just don't. It's just not my goal in life. I always want to be part of the Eagles family, and I think when you write a book that's something, as much as I know the secrets that I will take to the grave, Merrill, I would never divulge those.
See, I did a biography with Mark Eckel back in 1999, and it was called "It's Good" with the 6 zeros. But now I think about it. And Cindy wants to do a book, actually, on the career. And between 1999 and now, there are so many things to talk about.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I could do 2 chapters on Chip Kelly and what I thought of him. But I, there are so many things that I could go into without aggravating the current people at the Eagles.
Sure. Merrill, if you ever need help with that, let's do it. Let's collaborate. I mean, the Eagles won a Super Bowl in that time, for example. The organization in the game of football, the NFL has taken a crazy turn to the point now where when you look at this week that we have ahead of us, there are games on television on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday. Is there a Monday night game next week also? I'm not even sure.
Yes, there is a Monday night game.
Yes. It's the explosion of the National Football League into an international phenomenon. Games in Brazil, games in Germany, games in England, soon to be a game in Spain, a game in Australia in the near future. It's really a remarkable global game now.
That's amazing.
And you've been right there at the epicenter, as the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the premier franchises.
Oh, they should be. I mean, this has been an amazing run. Look at Nick Sirianni right now. First year, people wanted to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. He brought out the flower to show how the seeds bloom, flowers, and things grow. And people thought, well, this is ridiculous. They were calling him Ted Lasso. Mm-hmm. And all he's done is have this team in the playoffs every single year,
right.
Have one of the top 5 winning percentages of all time. He has had now multiple, first Eagles coach to have multiple 10-win seasons. And he is, I think he is now 46-22, something like that.
Yeah, he's got the best winning percentage in the franchise in the history of the franchise. The question I have for both of you is, does yesterday's loss change anything you feel about the Eagles and their chances of winning the Super Bowl this year?
I will tell you that last year, after they were 10-1, and then they lost the next week to San Francisco, I started to think something's wrong. And I started to feel this team is not what we thought they were. This year, after the loss yesterday, it meant nothing. To me, it was a blip. That's all it was. It was a blip. It was without the franchise quarterback. It was against a very good team on the road. I think this team is together. I think they will come out, and I'm glad that they're not playing the Giants this coming week. I think they need to play against a team that really right now is on the rise, a dangerous team like Dallas, and play a really good game and then sit back and rest against the Giants.
That would seem to be – I kind of agree with what you're saying. Coming off a loss like yesterday, playing the Cowboys at home is a game that's guaranteed to refocus these guys, and they want to get back on track. And then, listen, if you win that game, which you should – I don't think it's going to be easy because the Cowboys are playing better, but if you win that game, then you can play the final game against the Giants however you choose to play it. If you want to sit out some guys, rest them, get that bye week for yourself before you go to the playoffs, you can. That would be fine. But you got to take care of business here this week first and get yesterday behind you. I think the one thing you just talked about how you felt last year when this team was 10-1. I had my doubts, even at 10-1. I mean, even with that incredibly dramatic win against Buffalo, if you just looked at the statistical ranking of this Eagles team, where they were defensively, in the red zone, on third down, they were 24th, they were 25th. I mean, there were a lot of numbers that there were a minus, giveaway, takeaway. I mean, there were a lot of numbers there that didn't add up to 10-1, and there was a feeling in my part that I don't want to say they were lucky, because you can't get to 10-1 by luck in the NFL. But I just didn't. I wondered are they really as good as what their record suggests? San Francisco certainly proved what the problem was. So right now, I mean, this team across the board is a much better team than that team.
Oh, they are.
And so I don't have the same sort of fear. The one thing I do have, to David's question, is how do you feel differently about this team moving into the playoffs? I think that Daniels exposed what a running quarterback can do to this defense.
Yes.
And depending on who the quarterbacks are that you face in the postseason, I think that has something to do with it.
But, Ray, if that is the case, why didn't Lamar Jackson expose it? Why didn't Deshaun Watson, who can run, expose it? I mean, Russell Wilson doesn't run the way he once did, but they faced these running quarterbacks, and they were able to contain them.
Well, I think that the Baltimore team is – I mean, Jackson still runs, but their running game runs through Henry. So it's not as if Lamar Jackson's running is going to be the focal point of their offense. Henry will be. Jackson's more of he can still run, but he's going to execute the passing game before he's going to think about running. This kid can do it all right now. And listen, the way things are shaping out, the Eagles could wind up playing them again.
I think they will.
They could wind up playing
them again. Would love to
again.
see them again.
And I wouldn't be so sure about that one. I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want to see this kid again. David, I'm a believer.
You know what, though,
I really
Ray?
am.
Wait a minute. Then they're going to see Jalen Hurts again, hopefully for 4 quarters. Because I think I love Jalen Hurts. I've always loved Jalen Hurts. And when you talk about that he's going to be around, that he's going to be around for a long time, Jaden Daniels, I'm going to tell you, Jalen Hurts is only 26 years old. He's only a couple of years older than Jalen Daniels. So he's going to be around haunting them for a lot of years, too.
But I do agree, Ray, that there's a bit of a blueprint out there now. In the good news is that in the NFC, and you look at the playoff teams, Minnesota, Sam Darnold is not going to run. Jared Goff really isn't going to run. Jordan Love can run a little bit, but he's really not going to run. Matthew Stafford isn't going to run.
Can't.
Baker Mayfield or Penix is not going to run. So you really just are worried about one quarterback in the NFC. Now,
well, wait a minute. Penix can run. Penix.
Well, we haven't
really
seen him do
off.
it. Well, we haven't.
But
seen
I've
him do
seen
that
him
in
at
the
Washington, and I know how
Fine.
good a runner he is.
Okay, fine. I'll take
but
my
they
chances
probably
against
won't
a
play
rookie
Atlanta
quarterback.
anyhow.
But the point is, like in the NFC, it's Jaden Daniels in that kind of really athletic quarterback. Of course, if you get to the Super Bowl, it's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Then you have something to concern yourself with, but you've got 2 weeks to prepare for that. But I do wonder, that was my only question from yesterday, is did what the Washington offense do provide a blueprint for other teams? The challenge is that those other teams don't have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels.
Well, that's the thing. every team has a quarterback like that, that's for sure. But the other part of it was that the Eagles' defense, they were just gassed in the fourth quarter. I mean, you could see that. And you can understand that they don't have Brandon Graham. Sweat went out. You don't have Huff back yet.
Slay was out for a bit.
Slay was out, so you were really thin on the edges. I mean, the only edge rushers you had were Smith and Hunt.
Yep.
And so and then Davis had gotten hurt, so he
and
had
Charles
come out.
Harris too, who was a non-factor.
Right. So you had your guys on the defensive line. They were very thin. You didn't have many of them, and they were chasing this kid around the whole game. And so in the fourth quarter, they were just tired. I mean, you could just see they were just tired. And Washington took full advantage of that.
Well, two reasons I don't think that was a blueprint. Number one, what they did yesterday was without Jalen Hurts, the most important Eagle on the roster. So that was without Jalen Hurts. When San Francisco did it last year, they provided a blueprint for everybody else. The Eagles didn't have Vic Fangio. The Eagles coaching staff is much better because of the coordinators this year. And I think that Vic Fangio will look at what happened yesterday and make the adjustments he needs to make. I think he's that good.
I also think the Eagles are a much more physical football team than they were last year. I thought last year the defense got away from being the team that won at the line of scrimmage and freelanced and tried to get quarterback sacks and had gaping holes and a second defensive coordinator during the course of the season, and they were just not connected. They were an absolute mess. I think this Eagles team will be just fine when everybody's healthy and on the field.
I'll give you two other names, Ray, that weren't here last year. I can give you a third, too. Cooper DeJean,
right,
and Quinyon Mitchell, who gave up his first touchdown pass of the entire season. And then you can add a free agent who wandered in here who nobody even gives a second thought to, in Zach Bourne.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, all of those guys. And huge difference makers, all of them. It's part of the reason why, when David was talking about the defense of last year and this defense being more physical, absolutely. And one of the things about the defense last year, which accounted for some of the statistical figures I was talking about, 25th in this, 26th in that, this was a very poor tackling team last year. It really was. It was a lousy. It was a flat out lousy tackling team, and you can't say that about this team. They didn't tackle well yesterday, but on the whole for this season, this has become a very, very good tackling defense.
All right, back with Hall of Famer Ray Didinger and Dave Spadaro right after this.
Since 1991, the Great American Pub in Conshohocken has been offering an authentic and memorable experience for guests looking to dine in or enjoy the bar and nightlife. Located at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken, the Great American Pub has all your craft beer selections and some of the best food options anywhere. While you're there trying their buffalo chicken spring rolls or Maryland crab cakes, enjoy your favorite sporting events on their numerous televisions surrounding the bar. Visit them at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken or learn more online at thegreatamericanpub.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
With over 7,200 square feet of 200 brewers in stock at all times, Pat Dion Beverages now features 5 different flavors of their favorite slushy cocktails. You can also purchase all your wine, liquor, and other fine spirits right next door. Visit us on Facebook or online at patdionbeverages.com for upcoming events and samples from your favorite brewery or local food vendor.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA. Once again, here are your hosts, Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, Merrill Reese.
And back we are. Dave Spadaro occupies, by the way, we are at Chickies and Pete's in Boston. We're at Chickies and Pete's in Warrington tonight, and Dave is going to give us the injury report and tell us just exactly how Jalen Hurts is at this very moment.
Listen closely for breaking news. It's time now for this week's injury review, brought to you by the attorneys at Begley, Carlin, and Mandio. Contact them today for a free consultation at 215-806-3689. That's 215-806-3689. Merrill, the latest on Jalen Hurts is, drum roll please, we just don't know. He's in concussion protocol, and there is a period of time that we are not allowed to comment on it. The Eagles do not know. The doctors keep everything secret. It is very possible that he plays on Sunday against Dallas. It is also possible that he does not play on Sunday against Dallas. He has to go through the process of being cleared, and that could happen very late in the week. Nick Sirianni saying today that it is possible that if Jalen does not practice this week, he would be able to play on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. But all we can do at this point, Merrill, is wait for Jalen to go through the protocol process and hopefully come out clean before Sunday.
Okay, now there's another guy out there by the name of Kenny Pickett who got racked in the ribs.
Yeah, no update from the head coach on that. He was able to finish the game on Sunday, threw the ball very well down the stretch, made some really big plays in the field goal drive, the first field goal drive from Jake Elliott, and then made the throw on third down to Devontae Smith that Devontae couldn't bring in. Kenny Pickett looked fine, but he did talk about having a rib injury. Hopefully that is nothing serious. That would lead, if there is something serious there, to number 3 quarterback Tanner McKee. And the fact that the Eagles made no move today to elevate a quarterback, bring in a quarterback, do anything to address the quarterback
They don't have
position.
another in the practice squad,
Correct,
do they?
but you would think that if there was some sort of concern, they would bring a quarterback in as quickly as possible.
I would think so. I'm still very
that leaves me hope.
optimistic
Yeah,
that Jalen will be ready. Another guy who deserves a mention tonight, who some people were concerned about a little earlier this season, is Jake Elliott. But Ray, he's back on the beam because yesterday the kicking conditions were terrible. It was cold. The ball was like a rock, and he still netted 4 field goals. He knotted 4 field goals, including a 50-yarder.
Yeah, missed the first one, which was, 56, I guess.
That was unmakeable in that direction. That was
probably
that was on a wing and a prayer.
And he was on target. I mean, it was going to be good, but it just fell a little bit short. But then after that, he hit 4 in a row, including a really clutch 50 when the game was really in the balance. And you kind of get the feeling, okay, I think he's okay now.
I think he is.
I know a couple weeks ago when he had the really rough stretch, I mean, there were people when I was on WIP with Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie that morning.
During your retirement?
During my retirement.
Yeah.
During my retirement. I took a rare moment out to visit with the boys on the morning show. And the topic of Jake Elliott came up. And they were both saying, I'd bring another kicker in. And I said, I wouldn't. I mean,
No.
I believe in Jake Elliott. I think he's a really good kicker. He had a couple bad games. We've all seen kickers go through this.
We saw it with David Akers. Do you remember David Akers?
But I would sooner stay with a guy that I know and has won big games for us than go out and just pull somebody off the street. I'm riding with Jake Elliott this year.
Do you remember when David Akers had a bad playoff game against the Packers? And Andy Reid was pretty unkind to him afterwards, saying,
he was.
You can do the math and see what happened today.
Yeah, was that the game? Was that the Packers game, or was that the Cardinals game?
No, that was the Packers game. That was the Packers
game.
He
kicked the ball out of bounds, maybe. Was that the 2010 loss?
Packers game.
Packers went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Yeah, I mean, kickers go very quickly, but there's one thing. Does Jake have the range from 55 plus? Well, in the right conditions, in the Super Bowl, in a dome, yes. But you also need to you must be automatic from 45, 47 yards and in.
And he
in
always has
situation.
been.
And he is. And so I really feel like Jake is as dependable as they come, has worked really hard on correcting his first extra point yesterday, barely sneaked in there inside the right upright. So he was hooking that, and then he corrected and was really true on the rest of his kicks. On a day when, the kickoffs were only traveling to the 10, 12-yard line.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys, because you were down there. And you saw the kickoffs were coming down to the 10, the 15, and Washington's return game was really good. I mean, they were getting returns out to pretty much midfield. And my thinking was, now, wait a minute, this can't be strategic on the part of the Eagles coaches.
No.
We're going to kick short in this game.
You know, that
why would
Luke-
you do that? Because man has been all year. Man has been kicking it through the end zone. So was it just the wind, the weather, the cold?
It was the weather. However, they had a returner by the name of Luke McCaffrey who started to run like his older brother Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, he did a good
really
job.
did. He did a great job.
But they didn't intentionally kick the ball to the 12-yard
No,
line.
you
They
couldn't
wanted to
kick
kick
it any further.
Yeah, their kicker Gonzalez, I believe, was kicking it to the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 yard line. We just
Right.
didn't. The Eagles just didn't have that explosive return game. And then when Will Shipley was injured, replaced by Isaiah Rodgers, Isaiah's just not as explosive. You have to. It's incredible, Ray, the way this new kickoff rule has changed the kickoff. It is an interesting play now. It's a fun play, but for the return man, you have to hit it so hard. And these guys are getting blasted. They are but it has
But it
returned
wasn't
the kickoff.
supposed to be. It was supposed to be to take away a lot of injuries.
It's for those who are blocking, but for the return man, these guys are just getting pounded. And Will Shipley was lit up in the blocking game, and I really think that Will's a weapon.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, losing him impacted the Eagles in the return game. But regardless, Washington did a great job in their kickoff return game, and that is another area that the Eagles need to shore up.
Well, they have to shore it up by tomorrow morning, because let me tell you who's coming to town. Maybe the best kickoff returner in the entire National Football League, by the name of Cavante Turpin.
Yes.
He's scary. He's scary good.
Number 9.
That you've got the numbers down already, Merle.
I
You
do.
know, of course you do. We
Give
played
me
them
another
earlier. How about who? I don't even know anybody. on the team.
88 C.D. Lamb.
Well, we know that one.
Okay.
How about who's the kid?
81 is Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert.
Who's the kid they traded for? The wide receiver they traded for from Carolina earlier this year.
Oh,
They gave him a fourth-round pick.
Isn't that Jonathan Mingo?
Yes.
Number
that's-
81.
Number 81. There we go. No, okay. Merrill, you're on
See
here.
then?
So, that's why you're the best.
George has been quizzing me all the way here.
I love it. Sunday's weather forecast is a high of 53 degrees. It is a 1 o'clock kickoff now.
But rain.
It's been moved. Yes, there's a chance of rain. The time of kickoff has been moved from 4:25 to 1 o'clock. A rare Eagles-Cowboys game being moved out of that football game in America slot to the 1 o'clock slot in favor of Green Bay and Minnesota.
Well, I would move them too, because here are the Eagles, who are already clinched into a playoff spot, and here are the Cowboys who are
been
already eliminated.
Right, exactly.
So, and plus, I'd like to get home and see that Green Bay Minnesota game.
I love the 1 o'clock games. So anyway, that is your injury report. Nothing really pressing otherwise. The Eagles came out of it after a very physical game, relatively healthy, and we're just waiting to make sure that Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett are okay, and we will see tomorrow. The Eagles will have a walkthrough practice tomorrow. They will not announce any real injury updates until later in the week.
How about Davis and Sweat? Didn't know anything about that?
Yeah. Well, Davis came back in the game, I think. Jordan
Okay.
Davis.
Jordan Davis did come back, yeah.
Sweat I've not heard, and I did not see Sweat today. But he did not return to the game after that knee injury. And he would be a really key person to get back on the field because, as you say, they're thin at the defensive end position. And the hope is that Bryce Huff, I would imagine that he would be activated for this Dallas Cowboys game.
I thought when I saw the Davis play again, the one that he got hurt on with that wham block when a guy came down and cut him, isn't there a rule that you're supposed to get penalized if you do that? I don't think you're allowed to do that because they wanted to take the wham block out because it is so dangerous.
Yeah, Merrill and I talked about this a bit. I mean, look, I think the referees the officiating was absolutely
I agree with that.
horrible. Not only yesterday, Ray, but for much of the season, it just seems to me that they're missing calls. And you're right, that should have been penalized.
Mm-hmm.
Ray, we're talking about guys who are making a difference this year. And some of them were already here last year, but hadn't quite arrived physically or mentally or whatever it was, or weren't prepared. Maybe they had injuries. I'm going to mention two guys who are totally different this year. Kobe Dean is a force, and Nolan Smith, a guy that people thought, oh, he's a bust. Why'd they take him at the end of the first round? He is making a huge play every single week.
He is. And I was a big fan of both of those guys because I was a big fan of that whole Georgia defense.
Yeah.
I thought that Georgia defense, I said it before and I'll say it again, it's the best college defense I ever saw. That Georgia team that won the back-to-back national championships. That was the best college. The previous best college defense I thought I had seen was the Michigan State team of 66-67 with George Webster, with Bubba Smith, George Sames. I thought that was the best college defense I had ever seen, was that Michigan State team.
I wasn't born yet.
But the Georgia team that won the championships, I thought that was the best defense I'd ever seen. And Nakobe Dean was right in the middle of everything. So I really believed, even though last year people were saying, oh, he's too small, he's a bust, he's never going to be any more than a part-time player. I just stuck with him because I had seen him play too well, too often in big games. And I really felt like once he got healthy, once he got on the field, and when he got with a coach like Vic Fangio that knew how to utilize his strengths, that you would really see this guy blossom, and he has.
Not only that, he is the kind of character guy that you really want as part of your locker room. Right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think both I think the Eagles do a great job bringing in players who are going to fit the culture of this team. And look, I mean, at the same time, we're talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who walked off the field and double-birded the fans. But you know, they do a very good job with background checks. It has to work from a personality standpoint, from a team standpoint. When I saw Ray and Merrill, the kid from Devondre Campbell, walk off the field in San Francisco, I was just stunned.
Oh, when he quit.
When he quit on the team, and I thought those days were over in the NFL. There's so much money, but clearly that's not the case.
Nope.
So
All
anyway,
right.
I think this team will bounce back. I think they are understanding that yesterday was a loss, and that's all it was.
Okay, back with Dave and Ray right after this.
Since 1991, the Great American Pub in Conshohocken has been offering an authentic and memorable experience for guests looking to dine in or enjoy the bar and nightlife. Located at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken, the Great American Pub has all your craft beer selections and some of the best food options anywhere. While you're there trying their buffalo chicken spring rolls or Maryland crab cakes, enjoy your favorite sporting events on their numerous televisions surrounding the bar. Visit them at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken or learn more online at thegreatamericanpub.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
You won't see termites crawling across your floor, but thousands might be devouring the wood in your walls, weakening the structure of your home. For over 50 years, Termite Proofing and Pest Control of the Delaware Valley has been in the exterminating business. If you think you have a pest problem, they're the experts. Call them today at 215-639-5455. That's 215-639-5455 for TPPC. Termite Proofing and Pest Control of the Delaware Valley gives your home or business peace of mind, knowing your pest problem is in their hands. Located at 1560 Bristol Pike in Bensalem, they use only EPA-approved material applied by licensed technicians. Call Termite Proofing and Pest Control of the Delaware Valley at 215-639-5455.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA. Once again, here are your hosts, Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, Merrill Reese.
And back we are at Chickies and Pete's in Warrington on this Monday night. Merrill Reese, Dave Spadaro, and Ray Didinger. It's now time for this week's Penworth Financial Keys to the Game. The key to your financial future is Penworth Financial. Call them today at 267-997-4503 or visit penworth.com. We will start with Dave.
Well, you start with Ray.
I will start with Ray.
Yeah.
Okay. Ray, you can give the first key of the game, but it can't be have number one out there.
Oh, well, that's
because that is a key.
You're right. That's true. Well, I always go back to, I interviewed Bill Walsh one time, and I asked him what the key to winning football game was. And Bill Walsh, who was a career offensive coach, maybe the greatest offensive coach I've ever been around, said the key to winning football games is pass rush. He went to the other side of the ball. And if Bill Walsh figures that the key to winning a football game is a pass rush, then good enough for me. So I'm going to say that the Eagles get pressure on Cooper Rush. Then I think that's where the winning begins.
You know, a lot of people give Bill Walsh credit for inventing the West Coast offense.
Mm-hmm.
I once heard Bill Walsh give an interview and say it was taught to him by Sid Gilman.
By Sid Gilman.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It's interesting, isn't it?
That is correct. He learned it from Sid Gilman and then brought it with him when he was the offensive coordinator of the Bengals under Paul Brown. And he built the West Coast offense, even though it was Cincinnati, into their offense because they had a quarterback named Virgil Carter who couldn't throw the ball from here to there. So the whole game was built around short passes. And Bill Walsh, they won a lot of games. They made the playoffs. They were a good team. But the feeling that Walsh had was, if I'm doing this with Virgil Carter, if I take this offense and I get myself a real quarterback, we could really have some fun. And, of course, he wound up with Joe Montana.
All right, Dave, I'm in the middle, so I will take the second key to the game, and that would be account for the Cowboys' number 11 on every single offensive snap, and that is Micah Parsons.
Okay, that's fair. I will go a little bit more deep into the woods and tell you that the red zone is where this game will be won. The Dallas Cowboys are 32nd and last in the league in red zone defenses.
Wow.
Defense. Opposing offenses score touchdowns 75% of the time when they visit inside the Dallas Cowboys 20. And yesterday, the Eagles, it comes down to many things, but Washington scored touchdowns on 3 of their 4 visits to the red zone. The Eagles scored touchdowns on 2 of their 4 visits to the red zone. And at the end of the day, that made the difference in the game. So I'm going red zone.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I always break it down to either turnovers and red zone. To me, in a world of statistics, those are the ones that really stick out. But of course, it always comes down to the line of scrimmage, the quarterback play, who's more physical, who commits the fewest penalties, etc.
Okay, so there we have the keys to the game. All right, Ray, in this past 100 years or so, name your top 3 favorite Eagle coaches.
My favorite Eagle coaches?
Top 3.
I'm going to start with Vermeil. He was the guy I spent the most time with. He was the guy I was around the most. I was the beat guy when he got hired, so I was at practice every day. I got to know him very well. We didn't get along very well for the first year or so, but over time, I developed a tremendous amount of respect for him. You know, what he built here, what he inherited, what he built with no draft picks, that he built that thing into a team that went to the playoffs 4 straight years, went to a Super Bowl, tremendous accomplishment, and then to lay out for 14 years and then to come back with the Rams and then actually win a Super Bowl. I'm so glad he's in the Hall of Fame because I thought that he deserved it, and I'm so glad he got it because I think he's one of the great coaches I've ever been around, and I've been around a lot of them. So he'd be my number 1. I guess Andy would be my number 2. You know, I don't know Nick well enough to be able to say
we'll leave Nick out of this because Nick is the present coach and he's doing a great job. Mm-hmm. So other than Nick Sirianni.
Even though he didn't win at all, I really liked Mike McCormick. I thought Mike McCormick was a really good guy.
Became president of the Seattle Seahawks.
Became president of the Seahawks. Became president of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And now you probably walked by his statue. There's a statue of Mike McCormick outside the stadium down in Carolina. I mean, he's revered down there, and was a great player with the Cleveland Browns in the 50s. Played under Paul Brown, coached under Lombardi and George Allen. I mean, he's been around winners his whole life. Wasn't able to win in Philadelphia, but to me, a very good coach and a very decent fellow.
Dave?
Well, I love them all except for Chip Kelly, so I'll leave it right there. I despise Chip Kelly, but Doug Peterson is my number 1 because he's the one who won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Doug Peterson's a great guy. I think he's going through a very, very difficult time right now with a Jacksonville team that keeps sputtering every single week, and he's without the guy who was supposed to make that franchise, Trevor Lawrence, and it's just a shame. Doug is, I think, hanging on for dear life right now to that job.
I mean, I would be very surprised if they have Doug Peterson as their head coach next season. You've got to make a change at some point or change out your entire offensive coaching staff.
Yeah, I'm with Ray. I love Dick Vermeil.
Yeah.
I think Dick Vermeil was absolutely great. I have to tell you now, you guys, now I loved Andy too. Andy's right there. But I also have to tell you now, you guys are not going to agree with me, but I had a personal relationship that made me love Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan was unique. He was different. He was fun to be around if you were one of his guys, which I was. And I thought I never saw a coach who you took the toughest guys on defense, and if Buddy woke up at 3:23 a.m. on a Saturday night and put on one left shoe and hopped out of the building, that whole defensive group would get up and follow him out. He had a magic spell with the young, tough football player.
Unfortunately, the offense would head out the other way. That's the and a head coach is not supposed to have his guys. A head coach is supposed to have all of his guys, and Buddy didn't do that.
Yeah, and I also have to agree with Dave about Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson was just such a great guy to be around. Players loved him, and he was smart. He was just great. All right, Ray, we take our time right here and go through the book.
I've been waiting for this all week, Merrill.
Okay, and take
this is where you pick the games, right?
This is where you pick the games.
Did I catch you
That
at
was
all last week?
You didn't catch me, but you picked
Did I
up
close
on
the
me.
gap?
You
Yes.
closed the gap.
Yes.
Because last week I was 3-4. You'll say, how come we only had 7? And you were 4-3.
Okay.
So overall, I am 48-24, and you were 45-27. So it's just 3 games.
3 games to go.
Now
2
you know
weeks.
why? You know why we only had 7 games? Because we're on a Monday night, and one of the 8th game is actually being played tonight. So I put it on. So in this particular week,
Okay.
we're going to pick a game involving Green Bay twice.
All right, that's
so
fine.
for tonight, New Orleans at Green Bay. Ray,
I'm going Green Bay.
Dave,
Green Bay.
Merrill, Green Bay. By the way, I am rooting for Green Bay tonight. Now you say why?
Why?
Because I don't want Green Bay to lose. I don't want Green Bay coming here for that first game. I'd rather have Washington come here for that first game.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
I'm with you 100%. Go ahead.
Okay. Kansas City at Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go Kansas. I'm going to go Kansas City in that one.
Okay, Ray?
Is that
Although wait, are they going to play their starters in that game? Yeah, I would think that's a good question.
Yeah, they're going to play the starters.
Kansas City has clinched the number 1 seed, though. I'll still
Have
say
they
Kansas
clinched the number 1 seed?
I don't believe so.
I
No.
thought they did. Okay,
no,
well, then
because
I'll-
Buffalo has 3 losses, but
They only have 1. Okay, so I'll go Kansas City.
okay, you're going to Kansas
Right, and
City,
Buffalo
Ray?
beat Kansas City.
I'm
right?
going to take Pittsburgh.
I'm taking Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Baltimore at Houston.
I will take Houston.
Are you? Okay, Ray.
I'm going to take Baltimore.
Me too. Seattle at Chicago.
Seattle.
Ray?
Seattle.
Indianapolis at the Giants. Okay, everybody's
Everybody's
taking
taking
Indianapolis. Giants can't beat.
Does Chicago regret taking Caleb Williams?
I would when there was Jaden Daniels out there.
Do you think?
I still
They would not admit it, but I think if they want to be honest, they
Little
would.
buyer's
Ray, I have
remorse?
to tell you, my quarterback from that whole draft was Michael Penix.
Oh,
And
really?
He got off to. He was my favorite quarterback last year.
Oh, I
And
love Daniels.
He got off to a great start with Atlanta yesterday.
Yeah, he did. Played well.
He's very special. Green Bay again at Minnesota.
I'll take Minnesota.
You're taking Minnesota.
I need to catch up to you, Merrill.
Okay, I'm taking Green Bay. All right. I was going to ask Chris. He was showing me a signal. All right, Ray.
I'm going to take the Vikings.
Okay. Atlanta at Washington.
I will take Washington.
Okay. Ray.
I'm going Washington.
I was going to take Washington. Michael Penix is going to beat them.
All righty, here we go.
Okay. And Denver at Cincinnati.
I will take Cincinnati.
Ray?
Denver played, or they'll get a little bit more rest.
rest.
I'll go with Denver.
Okay, with Denver. All right, we will see. We're out of time. Chris has been our engineer and our technical director. And once again, the producer of Pro Football Report is George Forster, PGA.
Executive producer.
Executive producer.
Yes.
All right. For all of us, good night, everyone.
And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
You're listening to 1490 WBCB and on your FM dial at 107.3 W297CL Levittown.